Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk to you about a strategy that involves firing a token staff member to wake up or shake up the rest of your staff, which sounds so toxic, isn't it? Horrible. But it's very effective. And my friend uses this like an art form. So I'm going to tell you how he employs this method. And we call this the termination boot strategy. So this is how this works. He's the type of boss that is very much into coaching and creating a positive work environment and getting everybody motivated and happy, happy, happy. And he does whatever he can to really uplift his staff. But sometimes when you're that type of manager, it can be perceived as a weakness where, oh, buddy's so nice, we can do whatever we want with him. Oh, he's like a bit of a pushover or whatever. And sometimes you'll see standards slip. And it doesn't matter how peppy you are as a manager or what you might, how many gift cards you give out or whatever, you will see that people become very complacent in their job. They take the job for granted, they take the company for granted, and therefore the management for granted. And you give an inch, they take a mile type situation. And he sees this happen like a pattern, like an ebb and flow. So there needs to be this element of discipline or boundaries where some flexibility, of course, is allowed. Not everybody could be stellar every single day, but if you're not careful, that can slide too much one way or the other. So my friend has found a way to balance this out a little bit. So this is what he does. For the most part, he's an amazing boss and really positive and whatever, and he will let a lot slide. But when he sees that people start to take advantage, and not just one, because if it's just the one person, he'll just deal with the one person. But if he finds the culture in the place starts to move towards being lackadaisical or not motivated or that taking for granted, he will employ the termination boot method. So he has a pair of boots that he only wears the day somebody gets fired. And he always wears them the day somebody gets fired. And over time, people start to learn that every time Mr. So and so comes into the office wearing those boots, by noon, somebody's escorted out the door. And the old timers will spread that to the new timers. So when a newbie is hired, they'll say, oh, watch out for cowboy boots. The day he shows up with cowboy boots, someone's going to get fired. And it doesn't have to be boots. It can be a tie, it can be an outfit, it can be whatever. Every time she wears the color purple, somebody gets fired. So he employs this as a strategy now. So for the most part, when he terminates somebody, he does it very quickly, and he'll come in wearing his boots. And if it's just one person getting fired and he's not trying to make a point, he doesn't want it to affect the toxicity of the work environment, maybe he'll do it at the end of the day and just say, don't come back tomorrow or whatever. And he's very quiet about it. However, sometimes, like I said, when the entire staff or a huge portion of the staff starts to get a bit lackadaisical, he will do it a little bit differently. So he will walk in the front door like he does, wearing his special boots, his termination boots, and he makes sure that people see him. And rumor will start to spread throughout the building that so-and-so is wearing his boots today. So what that starts is an examination of conscience, yours and everybody else's in the room. So everybody in the office will be like, oh, he's wearing his boots. And I wonder, is it because, Joe's late every day, or because Susie told off that customer last week, or, Mary, he seems to be mad at Mary. Her numbers were terrible last month. But as you're trying to figure out which one of your coworkers is the most likely to get axed, you're also looking for yourself. So what have you done? Like, what are the things that come up in that moment that say, like, what, I haven't been really pushing my sales hard, I've been lazy, or I've been doing this or that, or not filling out my paperwork, whatever it is. And that's your way of thinking, wow, I'm nervous enough that it could be me. So if I think I might be the one getting fired today, maybe I'm not doing that good a job. And he knows that that is what happens when people are waiting hours and hours and hours to find out who's getting fired. At first it's curiosity, but then it turns into paranoia, and that paranoia is directed at yourself. So he waits for that. And when he figures it's been, 3-4 hours and everybody's freaking out over who it is today, and they see the HR going back and forth and him on the phone, and they're like, oh boy, like he's really getting ready. Everybody's worried for themselves, and that's the magic moment right there. So then he'll pull in whoever is actually going to get axed, and they'll be escorted out the door. And then there's a big sigh of relief that, it was him and not me. But now, because you've spent the last 3 hours worried that it might be you, you're probably going to be in tip top shape for the next 2, 3 months, right? Making sure that the next time he's wearing those boots, you're not going to have to worry that it's you. So you're just going to do a stellar job all the time so that you never have to worry. Let everybody else get fired first. And it works for him every time. It works for him every time. And sometimes, if things are really getting, disheveled or whatever in the environment, he will actually find somebody to throw under that bus, where he'll call me and say, hey, I'm going through that again. Everybody's lazy. I see nobody's doing their checklist every day, and they're slipping, and everybody's so comfortable and cozy, but nobody's really, going the extra mile. I think it's that time. I think it's time I pull out the boots. And he will just sit there and wait. And he'll start observing. He does that a lot too. He'll sit back and observe and offer very little direction and see who in the team is the weak link, who's the one who doesn't make the effort and doesn't do the initiative. And then he will initiate a conversation with them. So tell me, do you like your job? Do you enjoy working here? So Mr. Peppy rah 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 can get very serious when it needs to be. So because of that, his employees love him, because 90% of the time he's the happiest guy in the room, and he's always there to coach you, to help you grow and whatever, but he will not tolerate lazy and incompetence around him. So as soon as that starts to slip and people start to take advantage of his kindness, the cold him come out, the boots come out. So let's say somebody does something that's worthy of termination, but that otherwise this guy might turn a blind eye or be forgivable for, to make the point he won't. And he will fire that person as his example. Today it's going to be you. Thank you for providing me that opportunity, out the door. And that's a message to everybody else around him to shape up if they want to keep their job. And then he goes right back to being his wonderful, peppy, lovey self. So very soon that antagonism disappears and people go back to appreciating him. They see that whoever he kicked out was the toxic pill in the room, that rotten apple spoils the bunch. And once they're gone, they're ready to double down on productivity and do a better job. So that is the power of the termination boot method by my wonderful friend. And he's a great guy. We'll probably interview him on one of these videos one of these days, and he'll give you some great tips. Have a great day.